Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, who is standing by in Baltimore. I am Mark Grote of The Score. I am in downtown Chicago. Dan and I both just witnessed a Bears loss. The Ravens beat the Bears 30-16, the final score. Dan, the winning streak ends at 4, and there is not a whole lot of good from which to take this game.
No, first loss in 42 days. You could feel it in the post-game locker room. Obviously a familiar feeling, but one that you don't want to get used to. Again, the Bears had an opportunity to come in here today, Grote, to play the Lamar Jackson-less Baltimore Ravens. They had a chance to extend their winning streak to 5 games. And just like their previous 2 losses, it's not just that they lost. It was the style of losing that I think leaves people with a little bit of an unsettled feeling in their stomach.
Yeah, for myriad reasons. And I'm just looking throughout my chart here of things that I jotted down for the podcast and just in general to talk about with the Bears. And I guess I'm going to start, Dan, with what I call the fourth quarter Bears death drive in this game. And it really was ugly. Fourth quarter, for the benefit of people who are a little bit of fuzzy on it, 16-13 Baltimore. The Bears drive starts, I should point out, inside their own 5-yard line. In the midst of that drive, Joe Thuney, of all people, ends up with a false start. Another 11 penalties, by the way, for the Bears, ladies and gentlemen. Another just poor performance in terms of how sloppy they were. But the false start, then Caleb Williams, a horrible interception, intercepted by Nate Wiggins. Baltimore eventually turns that into an easy zero resistance touchdown to Charlie Kolar, 23-13 Baltimore. That was your death drive for the Bears. They never recovered for it. And I should point this out too, Dan, before I get your thoughts on this part of the game. The Bears did have some momentum going into that. The Bears had just gotten a 3-yard touchdown out of DeAndre Swift on an 83-yard drive, and the defense had come up with a big stop before the interception occurred. So it really sucked because it felt like that was the point in the game that you were supposed to maybe overtake Baltimore, but instead it was the exact opposite. You get some good defense, you get the touchdown out of Swift, and then you break down on that interception drive.
Right. We've seen the Bears play sloppy football games and then find themselves late in the game to go win a game. And so to your point, like you get the ball back, you're down 3, you had created a little bit of momentum previously, and you felt like you had an opportunity to go salvage the day. I can tell you that Baltimore Ravens fans were absolutely pissed when the Ravens opted to punt right before that, because they were in a position where they could have tried a very long field goal. I think it would have been about 57 yards from Tyler Loop. Instead, they tried to draw the Bears off sides, took the delay of game penalty, and punted. And you know that energy. You've sat in Soldier Field where people right outside the press box are screaming like, "What are you doing?" And it was escalating here at M&T Bank Stadium. And then they pin the Bears down deep, and then they get the takeaway, the Nate Wiggins interception on a pass that Caleb Williams said was a good read. He's going for Rome Odunze over the middle. Just didn't like the ball placement he had on it. Wiggins made a great play to his credit, undercut the route, intercepted it, and as you said, it's a 9-yard, 47-second yard touchdown drive, and for all intents and purposes, the game was over right then.
Yeah, and while, by the way, I don't know if this was picked up in the press box, but I had the benefit of watching the TV copy already, that while Baltimore was out there, they did try to draw the Bears off sides. Lamar Jackson, like you're talking about the juxtaposition of the fans getting pissed off that they weren't necessarily going to do it. Lamar Jackson laughing on the sideline because they all knew it wasn't going to work, but they were funning with it. And so I can't imagine what Baltimore fans would be saying if they had not held on to win the game. But I just thought that was a pretty funny little nugget to go along with what you were talking about with the unsettled crowd in Baltimore. But the big story, Dan, early with the offense, and look, we could continue to zero in on that drive, is, my goodness, man, that first drive, and the Bears have had some good first drives this year, no doubt about it. It's the rest of the game often that has been troublesome for the Bears when we're really critiquing the offense, but they have a 12-play drive that goes 8 minutes and 10 seconds. They end up settling for a field goal. They got the ball, to the 5-yard line?
The 3. They got as close as the 3,
The 3-yard line, and then you have a Munungai loss of 2, and Caleb Williams takes a bad sack. Oh, and I'm sure Mike Green sees it differently. Mike Green probably looked at it and says, that's a hell of a sack by Mike Green. But that was the Bears' first two drives, two different drives. The second drive, they fail on a 3rd and 7, and they settle for a field goal. We've been talking about this all week at Haugh, Dan. That really set the tempo for the day for the Bears offense, unfortunately.
No doubt. And it's one of the things we talked about in our game preview episode, Grote, was that red zone offense and finding a way to get that unlocked. They've struggled here now for 4 straight games. They're 5 for their last 16 inside the red zone after today. You talk about having your first 2 possessions of the game go 13 plays and 11 plays, and yet you're only leading 6-0 after that. At a minimum, it's got to be 10-0. And in a best case scenario, obviously it's 14-0, but you miss out on those opportunities against a quality opponent, albeit one without their own QB1. You're going to pay for it later. And the Bears did. The next time that the Ravens scored, they were ahead, and now all of a sudden you're in a fist fight, right? When you had the opportunity to land some punches early, that's got to get better quickly. And a lot of these things are, we're almost at the halfway point of the season, and we're talking about red zone issues being consistent. We're talking about penalties being consistent. We're talking about just some offensive sloppiness that gives you a lot of unsettled feelings about the direction that this team ultimately is headed. You got to get it figured out quickly, because again, like next week, you're going to go on the road. You're going to play a Bengals team that's scoring a ton now with Joe Flacco as its quarterback, and you may have to keep up, and you can't keep up if you're constantly settling for field goals.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Bears at the Bengals Sunday, then they host the Giants at Minnesota, home against the Steelers, at Philly, at Green Bay. So it feels, after that New York Giants game, which you never even know about that one, it starts to get a little bit relentless, doesn't it, Dan? It's like the gauntlet.
No doubt. And, and then so when we zoom in on these offensive issues, Grote, I'd be interested to get your take on it, because there's going to be, we've done this 1,000 times before. You go back into Haugh and everyone says it's self-inflicted wounds. As soon as we get that cleaned up, we're going to find our groove, but they're not in their groove yet. And I think some of this reflects on a quarterback who's not playing all that well right now. We get to 3-word reviews in a little bit. That's a theme that's within there. People not pleased with the way Caleb Williams played today. His rating's at 77.1. That's the 3rd time in the last 4 games that he's been below 80. 1 touchdown on 9 possessions today. That's not enough in this league, and you need your quarterback to elevate you at times, and it hasn't happened. The interception was a big deal. And then, Grote, I'll throw this at you, because I thought that the drive at the end of the first half and then the drive at the end of the game were representative of a team that just is discombobulated when they can't afford to be discombobulated.
Yeah, I mean, and it was DJ Moore, right, who didn't get out of bounds. He makes the terrific play. Right?
First half or end of the game?
The end of the game I'm talking about. That was DJ, right?
DJ makes the great catch down the sideline on the magic act that Caleb pulled out of his hat, in the extended play. And then they've got 4 plays down there again inside the 10-yard line. And, one of them is an incompletion. One of them is a completion short of the goal line. Explain that one to me, how you can be at the 3-yard line and have a completion in that situation that's not inside the end zone. And then you get some sloppiness there at the end with a quarterback sneak that doesn't get in. And then on 4th down, if you go watch that play back, I mean, DJ Moore's standing all by himself in the back of the end zone, and Caleb tries to make life way too hard on himself. And he's explaining after the game how he saw space to the right, and he was trying to get DJ, just throw a backyard lollipop. Like, just throw it up there. There's no one around him. He catches it and it's a touchdown. I get it. The Bears are down 14. That drive doesn't really mean anything, but it means everything when you're a detail-oriented operation trying to get some of these things figured out. You have to take advantage of every opportunity you have, and that was just gross at the end of the game.
Yeah, you had no timeouts left, so right, ultimately it wouldn't have mattered. But you never know. You never know. Onside kick, crazy things happen. Would have felt good, but they didn't operate well at all. And like the sneak. Now, Ben Johnson was critical of himself, and he seemed to be being genuine with you guys in the media room afterwards and saying that it was a bad call. But guess what, man? Caleb Williams is a big boy. He said, and they've struggled with this year. I mean, there was earlier this year when we were all like, whose fault is it that they couldn't get the 1 yard on 2 separate downs? But I mean, that's just one of those plays that probably should work at that point.
Yeah, just plow it across the goal line and let's just figure out a way to get the 30 inches that we need to get across the goal line there. You say that Ben Johnson was genuine with us guys in the postgame. It was really just me. It was me and some guy from Baltimore. Like, if you go back and listen to it, it's like, Larry Mayer's sitting to my right. I'm not even sure he asked the question. You're like, I got a list of questions, but you need somebody else to kind of help the tempo a little bit, right? Like, okay, hold on. I got to ask about the Lamar saga. And it's crazy because Ben went immediately. The locker room opened at the same time. Ben basically went to the podium, and it was a little bit of a scramble act there.
Dan,
that's a little glimpse.
That's hilarious, dude. I was watching that press conference in all its glory, and I noticed, I'm like, how is Dan? How did he just get four? How he's already asking about Kyler Gordon.
Right.
What happened to him?
You know, going down the list, right? Trying to get to as much as we could.
That was great. Yeah.
Look, and then the end of the half, Grote, you have the big Caleb Williams scramble. They put you in field goal range, and yet Caleb, laments later that he wishes he had gotten out of bounds to preserve a timeout. They bang one of their 2 remaining timeouts, and then they get that very costly intentional grounding, one of 2 grounding penalties on Caleb. And it's just one of those situations that it doesn't just cost you the 10 yards, it costs you the final timeout. And so now when you complete the next ball, that ball is completed just to get to the monster kick line there. And then it's completed with the clock running. So the field goal unit's got to run on without any time to set. And Cairo gets a good kickoff, and it just falls about 2-3 feet short of the crossbar, and you're just left how do you not squeeze points out of that? How do you not handle that sequence a little bit more cleanly? That's what the Bears are asking themselves as they try to become a more competitive football team.
Well, we'll get to the 3-word reviews, but let's stay on Caleb, and I'll just give you some of my thoughts on it, Dan. I did the score pregame show ahead of this game against Baltimore, and I changed my pick. I changed because when we did our picks, we kind of assumed that Lamar Jackson was still going to play.
Yeah.
And so that sort of helped to dictate the picks that we made. I picked Baltimore to win. I picked the Bears to win on the pregame show because I thought this is obviously Baltimore has had an array of injury issues, but I looked at their defense first and foremost, not even Lamar, forget the Huntley factor. And we'll get to Huntley today. I said, this is a day for Caleb, man. This is a time, and Roquan's back. I get it, all that stuff, but this is a day that Caleb can take advantage of a defense that right now is down, and they might get off the mat. They started getting off the mat today, and Baltimore might even make a playoff run. I don't know, but that was not a good defense. That was not a great team the Bears played today. You're right. You're right about the grounding plays. Those were 2 really bad ones. I'll just kind of whip through it really quickly. But yeah, Devin Duvernay that gets as you said, the 50-yard kick return. The Bears go 3 and out on the Caleb grounding. The other one too, and this was an interesting little part of the game. It's 10-6 Ravens late in the second. Caleb has a 22-yard run on a play. Everything's looking good. But Caleb, intentional grounding, loss of down, loss of yards, loss of time out. A killer trio. And then Cairo Santos, Dan, I didn't even know they called it this. They call it the hurricane field goal attempt, where you got to come run in. You don't have the timeout to use. He misses the 58-yard field goal. It's 10-6 at the half. The Bears are down. That was very unsettling to me as well.
It's deflating. It's absolutely deflating, and it's a missed opportunity. And this is what we kind of talked about during the week. Look, I expect the Bears defense to be pretty solid. They're depleted right now. Their injuries have added up on them, and Kyler Gordon to IR on Saturday is something that, was a little bit of a surprise to everybody when it broke. But that they're not going to get you 4 takeaways every week. And so you knew on a day like today where they got 0 that you were going to have to make your own luck offensively, and you were going to have to get yourself in your own groove without relying on short fields and the opportunity to capitalize on a big defensive play. And the Bears weren't able to do it. Caleb wasn't able to do it. And I had gotten some messages on Saturday from people saying, what do you think now that Tyler Huntley is starting at quarterback? It looks good for the Bears. I said, you don't know. This is a second-year quarterback in the first half of the second season, still trying to find his way. And at times, it can really smell bad, right? There was a stinker laid out there today. And they'll be honest, Truth Telling Monday comes on, days after they lose, just as it does after days that they win. And when they try to tell that truth on Monday this week, Grote, I think it's going to be a little bit more sobering and a little bit more urgent as they try to clean some of this mess up.
Yeah. And Caleb for the day, 25 of 38, 285 and a pick. Tyler Huntley, on the day. 17 carries, 22 yards, 186 yards, a touchdown. He also had, and that these were some killer parts of it too. It's like, yeah, Lamar Jackson's out, but here's 53 yards rushing from Tyler Huntley. Here's a 29-yarder on his feet. And Caleb, by the way, was better on his feet in this game this time around. Did take off a couple times when he should have. So there was progress there. You could see the coaching paying off in that particular spot. But guess what? Defensively, Dan, and this is kind of where I'm going with it, and Tyler Huntley playing better than I thought he would. I mean, those aren't crazy numbers, but definitely better than I thought they would. The defense gives up 355 again, and I know the injuries, but your defensive line is actually getting healthier with Grady Jarrett having returned out there, and Montez Sweat had an early sack, but they did give up 177 rushing yards, 53 to Huntley, like I said, but also you had Derrick Henry going and Keaton Mitchell ripping off big runs. They're the speedy guy getting to the outside. So that issue crept back up. I'm not going to give them a lot of excuses for allowing the 177 rushing yards.
No, and it's crazy because they did do a pretty decent job on Derrick Henry. Who's the guy you were most worried about. He goes for 71 yards, only averages 3.4 a carry, and I think his long of the day was 10. So you weren't getting gashed by Derrick Henry, which was the fear. And then yet you say at the end of the day, it adds up to 177. Tyler Huntley's got a passer rating of 116.9, and you're just left on the wrong side of things here without the ability to generate a game-changing takeaway. Look, again, like you listed the schedule just a few minutes ago. It's going to be really, really challenging here for the next 6 or 7 weeks. The Bears are going to have to respond to that challenge. They're going to have to be urgent every day they go to work. This is not a good enough team to get by on sloppy efforts against good football teams. You can get by with sloppy efforts against the Saints. You can get by with sloppy efforts against the Raiders. You're not going to get by with sloppy efforts against most of the opponents that you're going to play over the next month and a half.
Right, and that's the problem. And they did not get away with it on this day. And it was trending towards the possibility of the Bears indeed getting away with it again. So, hopefully it's not. I hesitate to say there's anything good to come from a loss because a win is a win in this league, but they kind of got what was coming to them on this particular day. Dan, how about you? We have some more things, but I know you are rearing to get to some of these 3-word reviews, which you said are coming in hot and heavy, and that there is a motif, there is a theme to this week's 3-word reviews.
Well, we're already up around 200 responses. Usually the losses get people fired up quickly, and they start rolling through them. There is a theme to these. I'm going to go run through some of these here. This is from Chicago Sports Addict. He goes with interception. Game over. We documented that earlier in the program. It sure was. Jake Bressler gives us Caleb struggles continue. No doubt. William Haley gives us Caleb ain't him. Another popular one. Tom Ganaway. Caleb isn't it. Tony Narduli. That was deflating. Optimistic nihilism. Huntley outplayed Williams. Now here's where we get crazy. Uncle Matty goes with start Tyson Bagent. Luke goes with where is Bagent? We're already getting these calls, Grote, which will tell you where the mindset is on a depressing Sunday night in Chicago. Southside Italian gives you, I'm going to drink. I can raise a glass to that one and understand where it's coming from. And then a couple more. This is Average Joe going with try Bagent next. I'm not there. I don't want anyone in our audience to think that's where this situation is. The Bears have a lot of work to do with Caleb Williams. They've got a lot invested in the marriage between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to continue seeing this thing through for a much longer time period than we're at right now after 7 games of their first season together. This stuff is going to take time. But, and it's a big but, the quarterback's got to start showing signs of progress. And when the penalties persist and when the offensive sloppiness persists, the quarterback's got to be the guy that erases it all. We don't talk about these issues with teams that have, top 5 quarterbacks, top 10 quarterbacks in the league, because when they commit a false start, the next play is a 14-yard completion and everything is back on track and everything gets rolling. When they get inside the red zone, they score touchdowns and then all of a sudden you've got fireworks shows and everything else going off. So Caleb's got to respond soon and start to elevate his own play. But there's plenty more time for him and Ben to kind of sort through this, albeit in a season where they're trying to win right now.
Yeah, and it is exactly what it is. It is back-to-back poor weeks for Caleb Williams so far. I think Caleb Williams is a better quarterback this year than he was last. I'm 100% with you, not wavering at all in terms of, like, here's what happened during the game in a group chat of which I am a part. Somebody said that their friend was at the game and they saw Tyson Bagent warming up at some point in time. And of course I was like, no. And then I thought to myself, what if they really are doing something? I was like, no, it will not be better. The Bears will not make further progress by putting Tyson Bagent in at this point. So I realized that at that very moment that I am not close to being there. But I will give the caveat with you as well. It's something does have to change. Something has to click to become more consistent, because we've seen one game this year, Dan. That's the Dallas game, 298, 4 touchdowns, where you really said, that's it. That's it. And it doesn't have to be 300 every game. Don't get me wrong. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have 300 yards every single game. But that's it. That's the quarterback that the Bears drafted number 1 overall. There's an example of it, and we have not seen it much other than that game.
Well, and Grote, you and I spent May and June and July and August talking about operational steadiness, right? Like that was such an emphasis for the Bears. And then you get to the post game today, and I asked Ben Johnson directly, like, what is most urgent to you? And he says it's the penalties in the red zone, but also that, like, look, there are too many moments where we're not getting lined up properly. There are too many moments where we're not handling emotion properly. And when you have some of this operational chaos, it always circles back to the quarterback. He's in charge. He is the guy that has to take the steering wheel there and get that thing together. And so don't take those comments from the head coach lightly, because I think ultimately, as I've said for a while now, if those types of things continue to be a problem with the starting quarterback, there will come a point in time where the head coach has no choice but to say, look, like, we're not functioning the way an NFL offense should be functioning, with basics of things that happen before we even take the snap. And so we talked all spring and summer about that. We should not be talking about it as we get close to Halloween.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just astounding. Like that they're in double digits again. And they joked about it a couple of weeks ago in one of the locker room celebrations. Hey, imagine if we start cutting down on these penalties. Well, guess what? Theme of the day. You did not get away with it this time against those Ravens. Dan?
Four of those were offensive penalties, and then there was a string of defensive and special teams contributions to that list as well. But you're right, 11 it's a staggering number, and I don't think there's been a single game this year where the opponent has been more penalized than the Bears. That's problematic.
Yep. It is. Dan, what's cooking tonight? You gonna do like a fish boil or anything before you get out of town?
I got an early flight tomorrow. We got to get our plans together here when I get off the podcast here. Do you hear the buzzing? Did you hear the buzzing in the background? Because they turned on the sprinklers, and it sounds like the sprinklers have like a jet engine running them behind me. I'm glad you can't hear it, because it is very loud. But last night I had dinner outside, Grote, on the harbor, a little place called Lock Bar. Recommended by Jeff Zrebeck, who came on the podcast earlier this week to share Baltimore intel with our audience. And then he shared Baltimore restaurant intel with me. And I went and had a cream of crab soup and a crab cake sandwich and sat outside in the water and went home. I was like, that was exactly what I needed tonight. So I am not afraid to run a restaurant back. And so I might wind back up at the Lock Bar tonight.
Wow, that's great, man. Good for you. Yeah. Get what you like. And I'm so glad you did that. Like, I hate the people that go to places like that. They get a burger.
Yeah.
You got to get some crab. You got to get something out of the sea.
It was delicious too. And the soup was like, I was like, this is going to be good. And then it was elite.
All right. We are going to have a lot more throughout the week here on Take the North about this Bears 30-16 loss. Anything more, Dan, before I let you out of there and get the work done or get out to dinner?
I'll just give you 2 little nuggets from the head coach today. He did say that Kyler Gordon is dealing with an injury that he believes will not be season ending, that there is a soft tissue problem there with Kyler Gordon that they believe can get him to return from IR. That's sort of a footnote on the entire day, but man, was that big news on Saturday. And Ben Johnson didn't say much about the Lamar Jackson saga. I think you would probably agree with me, and you'll probably talk about it a ton on Monday on 670 The Score. That Lamar Jackson saga was really something over the weekend.
Yeah, that sneaky guy and everybody. Harbaugh. I don't know what happened, man. Hey, man, sorry about all that.
Bad week to get clumsy with injury designations and things that can lead people to scratch their head a little bit.
You're right, Dan. There will be a lot to talk about on 670 The Score and right here on Take the North. Let's get out of here. Bears lose, unfortunately, for Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. quarterback. For Adam Stasinski, our executive producer, I am Mark Grote saying thank you for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.